It's Wednesday night, and we're live from Oakdale, Washington, in the Educated Touch studio. Welcome to Ethics Outside the Box, with your host, Nathan Nordstrom. Special guests include... and you. Here he is, Nathan Nordstrom.
Ethics discussions. I am here once again with my friend Adam Parrott, and we're going to be talking, this is episode 2, so we're going to be talking ethics and its wonderful importance in our profession. Adam is, okay, let's see if this keeps working. Hopefully everything will go well. If not, we'll kind of continue playing with it. But Adam Parrott and I have been working together for several years. Adam was one of my massage students in school, and then he just overly impressed me. So, say hello, Adam.
Hello, everybody.
All right. So today, Adam and I are actually going to be talking about several different aspects, but we always want to go back to the core beginnings of where we're getting all of our information from. So the important piece for us to kind of revisit with you is the NCBTMB.org website. The National Certification Board has a Code of Ethics, and that's what we're using as our guidelines for this class. So we're going to roll on down. The standard website is here. It's got the title on it, and then all the different services and things that they provide. Questions that you may have, you can buy an NCB t-shirt there.
Oh, look who's on the spotlight. Is that you on the spotlight?
I am spotlighted for January, so there's me having fun there. And then the thing that we're actually going down to, not my face, is the About page. And just this About page down here on the bottom is where we actually start seeing really important things, like the bylaws, the volunteer standards, and then you come all the way down to Code of Ethics and Standard of Practice, which are down here, so that you know what the Standards of Practice and the Code of Ethics is for a massage therapist who is nationally certified. These are important pieces. We want to make sure that we've got those things set up so that you know what is expected of you as a massage therapist. We just want to make sure that we have Code of Ethics understood as we kind of go through that, represent their qualifications honestly. Adam, what are some of your qualifications?
Some of my qualifications, well, I am a licensed massage therapist in both Oregon and Washington. And outside of that, I studied psychology at University of Oregon and Portland State University. And I've been able to apply that a lot with my understanding of the medical field here in Washington. Other than that, I mean, I've been a therapist since 2007. And so I've got a lot of continuing education, as I'm sure a lot of people do, in a lot of different areas. We all kind of branch out and find a lot of things. And I think that's actually what a lot of today talks about in the representation of your qualifications. So I don't want to jump right into it, but that was kind of my segue.
Jump! Let's go. I love this because there's two major categories that I see this statement going to. The first one is internal qualifications of a massage therapist, and then the second one is external qualifications of a massage therapist. What I mean by that is, as a massage therapist, am I representing myself as a hot stones massage therapist if I don't have any training in it? Or am I representing myself as a structural integrator when I took an introductory class? Or am I doing joint thrust adjustment like a chiropractor, but obviously I'm not a chiropractor? That would be the difference between internal and external, or we're going outside of our practice versus things that are in our practice. And I think it really defines both of those pretty significantly, just saying that we're honest, being honest with what our qualifications are. Now, Adam, some of the places that you've worked, you've been asked to work in different styles and do different techniques.
Absolutely.
Have you ever worked at a place, and please don't name any places that you may have worked, where they've expected you to operate outside of this, where they've asked you to do something that you didn't know how to do?
Yes, it's very common, and this is one of the things that I wanted to touch upon. When you're working for a place, there are so many things that people think are massage, and that your license as a massage therapist covers, that it doesn't necessarily cover, but from a public perspective, it's part of, quote unquote, the massage world. And there are a lot of times when you're working in more of a spa environment or something like that, where they'll throw you through a half-hour training on how to do their specific thing, and now suddenly you are the expert that are these people are coming in to have this service done, and it might have nothing to do with your massage therapy license. Next week, you guys are going to talk more about scope of practice, but I'd like to point out real quick that in no scope of practice, and they're all different, but in no scope of practice that I've read has energy work ever been associated with massage therapist practice. And this is a huge one that gets lumped in all the time with massage. And so a lot of times, like I was doing this treatment where we had to put, as part of this little service, we had to put a quartz chakra heartstone, and just the quartz chakra heartstone, on our clients, right on their sternum. None of the rest of the session had anything to do with chakra balancing or anything like that. And I'm not proficient. I haven't done a lot of training in chakra balancing or anything, but we had to do it as part of this protocol. And I finally had to go up and I had to say, look, I've never been trained in chakra balancing, and quite frankly, my scope of practice is here in the state of Washington is manual manipulations of the soft tissues of the body. And then the only thing that it says in there that could be like it is reflexology is included in that, because reflexology does a lot of manual manipulation. But nowhere in my scope of practice does it talk about energy work or chakras. So how do I represent myself as a professional in a spa that's offering that under my license? Because the client coming in doesn't understand that that the session is anything other than what we present it to be, right? So if we're presenting, I'm your massage therapist, I'm going to take care of you today, here's some chakra balancing that I've never been trained to do other than the half-hour training that I got when I was taught how to do this protocol at this place. Am I representing myself as a professional there, or am I just doing what my overlords want me to do?
Yeah, good statement. Good connection. And it's funny because there are several states where instead of not connecting massage therapy with energy work, they actually separate them in the scope of practice and saying that massage therapy is not energy work. Mm-hmm. And they're more linear in saying these are two absolutely separate things. They don't discredit energy work. They're just saying this isn't massage therapy.
Yeah, and I don't discredit energy work either. I mean, I've done Reiki, I've done polarity, I've done lots of workshops in energy modalities, and I use it in my practice. I really do use it. I don't think that if you have training in energy work, you can put your hands on somebody and not be using it. But specifically, our license as massage therapists does not include an expertise of energy work.
Well, we've talked in the past about false advertising. We've talked about saying, "Hey, I'm a massage therapist," and then doing anything but massage. Mm-hmm. When you go about doing that, it's not just the problem with that people get mixed up with what you do, but they get mixed up with what massage is.
Yes.
Honesty and really qualifying yourself honestly for what you do really will not only show your integrity, but will create the integrity for the practice of massage therapy. Go ahead.
Exactly. I mean, like when I've done, I've studied Reiki now for about 3 years, and I really do love bringing that into my practice, but never once when I'm doing massage, when someone's coming in for therapeutic massage, do I say, do I use Reiki as part of my massage? I will say, I also do Reiki if you would like me to, or if I can offer that to you, basically. But making that definition of not every massage therapist is an energy worker, I think is very important, because energy work is not covered by most scope of practice.
Yep.
Energy work simply doesn't have a profession that it is regulated under in most places. So it gets lumped in with the kind of new agey aspect of massage therapy, which for me is a little detrimental when you're looking at the healthcare side of massage therapy and the therapeutic side, clinical side of massage therapy, because it gives the public the impression that massage is, anything from going into a place and getting hurt, they're pushing so hard, to having someone not even touch you and chant alms over you.
See, and I go the other direction, Adam, because we've talked a lot about energy work so far. And I am the other massage therapist that you're going into, where I do a lot more treatment-based work, deep tissue, kind of structural stabilization, working with soft tissues to create change in posture and gait analysis and all of that side. And so I'll get people who say, oh, well, Nathan, he's kind of like a doctor of massage. And I'll say, hey, I'm not a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a massage therapist who works with your muscles, who really helps you understand. And I can get in as much trouble with not representing myself correctly as the person who's doing energy work and not really doing massage therapy. And so that balance is an issue. It's a challenge to kind of say, wait a second, what treatment are you providing, and making sure that awareness is there so that the client can say, oh, I had a massage therapist do that once. I liked that. Or I had a massage therapist try that. I didn't like that. It gives them the opportunity to be truly aware of what they're getting. If we had clients who wanted a specific technique or therapy, and they were coming to you expecting you to do it, and you did something completely different, they would either look at you and say, well, you don't know what you're doing, or they'll look at the last person and say, well, they didn't know what they were doing.
And that, I think, is a real struggle for massage therapy as an industry right now, is the fact that every single massage therapist has such a broad range of education. You could take two therapists that both have been practicing for 10 years, and they both have the exact same continuing education. They both have the exact same knowledge base, and then say, you have 3 minutes to work with this forearm. And both therapists might do a completely different treatment based on the techniques that they think will be the most effective, that's in their repertoire. And so people are going to therapists and they're getting very different treatments. That's not a bad thing. I really don't think that's a bad thing at all. I tell people, when clients come into me, I say, if my technique doesn't work for you, I encourage you to continue searching for the right therapist that works correctly with your body. Because there are so many different modalities and so many different techniques. And what I was trying to bring in before when I was talking about the energy work is that when you're talking about a massage technique, under the most laws, most state definitions for massage, they're talking about manipulations of soft tissue of the body. They are not talking about energy. So having somebody come to you for massage therapy and doing energy work on them is not you acting as a massage therapist per se, because anyone can do energy work. You don't need a massage therapy license to do energy work. You don't need a massage therapy license to do Reiki or polarity or chakra balancing or any of the other, varied techniques out there. You do need a massage therapy license to do massage, though.
Yep.
And so when people are coming to you for massage, I think that honestly representing that you're coming to see a massage therapist and I'm going to use my massage therapy skills on you is really, really, really relevant to the situation where people are going in to get massage, and it's this broad spectrum of a little bit of everything. For me, I tell people you're only really doing massage if you are doing massage techniques.
I would kind of say that part of that actually borders on legal instead of ethical.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
We're looking at fraudulence, and so that's also that internal external concept that we were talking about before, where internally we have our ethical piece where, okay, you've never been trained in hot stones, or you got a 1 hour introduction on how to do hot stones, and now they're expecting you to do hot stones. You're not going to go to jail for that. However, if you then are, as a massage therapist, you're working with doing exercise training, you're doing joint manipulation, you're looking at people's x-rays, MRIs, you're stepping past your standard scope of practice, that's where you get in trouble legally. And that's a legal aspect. And obviously that's a portion of it, but when we're talking about ethics, we're talking more on the internal. I like their specific inclusions here. Let me actually go back to sharing this page here. Just a moment. Let's share. And so the qualifications, the specifics are including education and professional affiliations. So when I first look at the education, you spoke about this already, where you said, okay, we have such a variety of massage therapists in professional education. You can get your massage therapy license and be a licensed massage therapist with, in most states, a minimum of 500 hours. Or you can be a massage therapist with a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree. You can have a degree in something as well as massage therapy, and making sure that you're marketing the things that you're doing so that you're not just saying, hey, as a massage therapist, I'm doing this and that as a physical therapist, or I'm an athletic trainer, and so I'm also doing athletic training and massage therapy, but really dividing it out to make sure that people know what it is to be a massage therapist and what it is to be a physical therapist. Those are those pieces where you'll have that understanding and be able to then present to them, so that we really, in my brain, the key piece is we don't want a person going from you to another massage therapist and asking, well, how come that massage therapist isn't doing what you did? Well, because I'm also A. That simplifies a lot. That gives a lot more understanding. A lot of the stuff that I do comes from my bachelor's in general sciences, where I'm looking at physics, I'm looking at psychology, I'm looking at biology, I'm looking at microanatomy. I'm taking these other concepts and putting them together to understand, especially the physics. Physics I use an awful lot of when I'm looking at movement, posture, gait analysis, to kind of really say, okay, so what muscles are firing and why? It's really easy to add there.
And that's a skill set that you have acquired that not everybody with a massage therapy license out there will have. But you also said earlier that you present yourself as you do more clinical work, you do more structural analysis, you do more gait. And so you're presenting yourself in that way with that education. I do think it creates confusion among the public. I can speak of a personal situation within my family. I had a family member who recently went through surgery and has not been sleeping well. And I said, well, why don't you try a massage? And her response was, that never works. It hurts me. People hurt me, yada, yada, yada. And so I said, well, sit down here for a second. And I took a look at her posture, took a look at her structure. I started just doing some light massage on the shoulders, holding muscles in a certain place, whatever. And she completely opened up and was like, oh my gosh, I haven't felt relief like that, since the surgery. What are you doing? How are you doing that? And how can I find somebody like you where I live to do this? Because I was just visiting. And I said, oh, see, that is the real question, because it's not like there's a, and sorry for the analogy. This is a horrible analogy, everyone. I understand that, but it's not like there's a dating service out there for massage. There's not a Tinder where you can hop on and flip through and see, your different therapists or anything like that. Really, the only thing that the public has is to go try out a therapist. And if they like them, they continue to see them. If they don't like them, they keep moving on. But for a lot of people, that takes a lot of money, because you have to flip around. And there's not a lot of education out there that there's websites that you can go to find, AMTA certified therapists, or things like that. The general public doesn't know that yet.
Well, and I think that's being worked on by the associations. I know AMTA and ABMP have a find your massage therapist or locator type service, and several of the other groups and things have those types of things. I think the bigger challenge is, I know when I was in massage school, one of the big things that my teachers told me is, well, you're going to make Nathan massage. You're going to have your massage therapy technique that's really unique to you, that no one else will be able to duplicate. And all massage therapists have this. And it's because we branch out and take all these different continuing education classes, and we pull stuff from each class, and then we kind of create this modge podge of modalities and techniques. But I think there's a basic standard level that we all need to have. And there are some of those things that we don't get a lot of continuing education in. Intake, interviewing, communication, ethical standards. These are all things that should be that basic framework that then you step up to. And no matter which direction you go, if you go into the relaxation-based, REM sleep focused, how to get your client to relax and get out of the stress and anxiety, to deep tissue treatment-based, you're working on 1 foot for an hour type technique treatment-based work with deep tissue, where there's experiencing discomfort. As long as you've hit that communication barrier, you've created this standard and expressed to them how to look for someone who works similar to you. A lot of times what I tell people, for me, is you're going to be wanting to look for someone like a structural integrator. You're going to be looking for someone who focuses on deep tissue or treatment-based work.
Yep.
And I get a lot of people who come back to me and say, I've never found someone like you. Where else can I look? And that's the answers that I have.
Because you're absolutely right. No two therapists are going to be alike. And that's, I touched on that earlier when, I said two people work on a forearm completely differently, based on the education that they decide to use. But, when somebody comes to you and says, how do I find someone that does what you do? That's not a question that we have an answer for. Like you said, go find someone that's trained the same as I am, doesn't necessarily mean that they'll give the same session that you give.
I like that. I think one of the challenges that I see is, what is it that they want that is the same as you? I've had people who have said, gosh, I only go to male massage therapists because they have stronger hands. And that's a statement that, although generally that kind of is perceived as a standard, I've been beaten up by some really strong ladies who have been able to massage into some really deep tissue that I've never been able to get into. So it's this
absolutely
this concept that isn't right, and being able to then, I think one of the things that we need to be able to do as massage therapists is take our language and unify our language and be able to say, hey, here's what deep tissue is. And I know different groups have tried to do this and have kind of put different things down. And Ryan Hoying, he had, I don't know if the page is still up, he had a page that defined the different techniques of massage therapy. I use that several times in classes with different people in different places, where it kind of gave a brief synopsis of what these different techniques were. because he was sick of hearing someone say, oh, I really hope someone can do this technique or that technique. And then he was able to explain it, and they're like, yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. And then they get to another technique and go, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Myofascial release or manual lymphatic drainage or neuromuscular therapy. And these are terms that in massage therapy are known, but in the rest of the world, they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to be able to know what you're educating.
Exactly. That's what I mean by the public have a hard time figuring it out because they're not trained. We know what we're talking about for the most part. So this one spa that I once worked at, on their intake form, they said, would you like Swedish massage or deep tissue? And then they had a little description of both. And Swedish massage was light to moderate massage using the hands. And then under deep tissue, the description was stronger massage incorporating the elbows. And that was the only distinction that they made between the two.
Wow.
And you taught me deep tissue, Nathan, so you understand where I'm coming from, where that is not my definition of deep tissue at all. And for a lot of people, a lot of therapists are taught deep tissue just means Swedish massage, just harder. And, when you get into a lot of deep tissue structural integration kind of continuing education, you learn that no, deep tissue work can be incredibly intricate and incredibly soft and incredibly specific. In fact, the definition that you gave me so many years ago was deep tissue is specific work to a specific structure. And that's my definition that I've taken with the deep tissue. So where I consider myself a deep tissue therapist because I'm always doing specific work to specific structures. That's why that's why my clients come and see me, is because that's the therapist that I represent.
I had a couple of years ago someone who challenged me on that definition, because their statement was, if we have high quality massage therapists, everyone would be a deep tissue massage therapist, because your focus as a licensed professional would be on the treatment technique and the area that you're using a specific technique to change the function of that tissue. And I really couldn't argue. To me, it is true. If you are a Swedish massage therapist doing light superficial work using the 5 major strokes of Swedish massage, effleurage, petrissage, friction, vibration, and tapotement, and you're using those techniques and focusing on muscles, regions, and specific tissues, and you're consciously engaged in those tissues, that's deep tissue.
I would argue that the only reason why I would argue that is because I think you have to bring intent into it as well. If I have a client who is suffering from anxiety or sleep issues or something like that, and so my intent during the massage is to put them into a parasympathetic state, then that relaxation massage, a lot of people call them fluff and buffs, but I still consider them therapeutic when used for therapeutic reasons, like helping people with depression, stress, anxiety. In those instances, you're using strokes of massage, but your intent is not a physical structure. So I would not consider that deep tissue massage. I consider that Swedish massage or whatnot. You are affecting the tissues, but your intent is not a change of the structure of the tissue. You are trying to work on the mental aspect of massage. And that, I think, is not deep tissue.
So going a different direction, we've already talked about energy work, and that's manipulating tissues other than the physical body. That's the realm around us, the energetic work, the energies around us. The more deep tissue type stuff where you're actually manipulating specific tissues. And then what it kind of sounds like to me, what you're referring to when you're working with that aspect would be more of a neurological kind of focus, where you're focusing on the reduction of neurologic stress and increasing the parasympathetic response.
Yeah, so you're working on the kind of mind-body connection. Or, where does the body go when it's in the parasympathetic state, in the rest, digest, renew state? In order to do that, you have to put the body into that state. But a lot of that doesn't have anything to do with how the muscles actually functioning or the structures actually functioning. It has to do with how the body relaxes during that state.
So I think there's one piece here that goes to that portion that I highlighted here on the NCB's website, including educational and professional affiliation. You and I both have a higher level of education on these types of concepts than the majority of massage therapists. Majority of massage therapists have 5 years
the majority of massage therapists, yeah.
And so standard massage therapists are going to be kind of listening to these types of ideas on a YouTube video as they're sitting down and watching, and kind of going, well, wait a second, what do we mean? How do we get to that point? And I think the other piece, especially to this number 2, representing their qualifications honestly, also means that you're constantly improving your qualifications. There's something to be said about your state license requires you to have continuing education, but it's not just continuing education, it's continuing education that will really engage you to have a higher quality of knowledge and experience. If you aren't trying to get better, you're staying stagnant and you're not giving your client the highest quality of care, because there's always more to be learning in every profession. You'd want your surgeon to know the most recent techniques if you're going into surgery, as well as you want your massage therapist to know their best techniques for acting as a professional.
Well, and I also think that one of the intriguing things about becoming a massage therapist, for me at least, and I think for a lot of other therapists, is the fact that there's so much to learn out there within this field. I mean, when you look at every civilization throughout time, anyone that we have discovered or studied has developed some form of hands-on healing modality within their civilization. I mean, the amount of education, of continuing education that you can do when it comes to human touch and what that can do to the body is limitless.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think massage therapists last more than 5 years in this field unless they are actively improving their knowledge base, just like you, just like you just said. If you're not actively seeking out more knowledge to better yourself, intuition can only take you so far. Intuition is great. When you go through massage school and you're done with your 4 terms or whatever, and you feel like you just know everything about the body, that only takes you so far. I'm 10 years into this profession, and I'm still learning on a daily basis ways to touch the human body to achieve effect. And that can be through anything that we've talked about so far tonight. That can be through the psychological aspects, that can be through the physical aspects, that can be through the energetic aspects of how human touch affects the body. Where I think that our code of ethics on this number 2 is specific to us as massage therapists, is that we learn all of those things and we can study all of those things and we can bring all of those things into our profession. But professionally, we have to present ourselves as massage therapists. And that is it's not getting hard to do. It's been hard to do my entire time, because some people think of you as, like you said, doctor of massage. They think that you are healthcare professional. And then you have a portion of the population that still treats you like you're a prostitute. And bridging that gap will take us presenting ourselves as professionals. You can only present yourself as a professional if you have the education to back it up.
And that's on all sides. Every massage therapist representing themselves professionally.
Yes,
because
exactly.
If the clinical massage therapists say, hey, we're clinical and this is what we are, and the spa therapists don't say, hey, we're we're spa, we are licensed massage therapists, we are of this standard, and here's our guidelines, then half of our industry will still be having challenges. If the spa industry, which I'm so excited about and so interested to see how the next innovation and development of the spa industry looks, if they can pull themselves up, they're going to create a whole new genre, a whole new development, and a whole new focus, which I think goes to the last portion here on this, and provide only those services that they are qualified to perform. The term qualified has always had a interesting dynamic. What does it mean to be qualified?
Well, again, because you're not talking about legal qualification here, we're talking about ethical qualification. Meaning, if you sit through 2 hours of hot stone, or a workshop to learn hot stone massage, and you don't feel comfortable doing it, you're not qualified to do it. It has nothing to do if you have the certificate saying that you accomplished the course. You as a therapist have to know it inside and out, understand its limitations, understand its protocol, and then carry it out professionally. And if you can't do that yet, then you're not ethically qualified to perform it, even if you have everything that you legally need to have to perform it. Because what happens is your client is going to go see somebody who is really good at hot stone massage and uses it as deep tissue therapeutic technique. And then they're going to come see you and say, I want a hot stone massage. And if all you've had is an hour of training 6 months ago, and you remember how to turn the stone warmer on, but other than that, you're just kind of gliding the stones over the body, are you really presenting yourself as a qualified hot stone therapist?
Yeah, I have to say, in the past, I've been worked at spas and been asked to do a relaxation or their signature service massage. And as I break it down and kind of say, okay, your signature service massage is that you keep this going while that's happening, and then you transition from this to this, and it's literally an hour of going through step-by-step instructions that you had to memorize.
Mm-hmm.
And I really disqualified myself because for me it felt mind-numbing. I wasn't engaging. I wasn't being the utmost professional because I was doing the technique and not engaging mentally to say, okay, so what is this doing for this person? So I know when I go and I take a continuing education class, I love going to national conventions and chapter conventions and state conventions and sitting down in a class on a subject that I have not any knowledge on and starting to really listen and starting to really engage and start getting the ideas that they're presenting, and then stepping out and going out to my practice, going out to the professional world. And every hands-on instructor that I think I've ever seen has said, you need to practice this before you work on paying clients. Because if you have just taken the class, you don't know what it's going to do for a person with this. They can teach you the indications and contraindications and teach you the technique and how to and how not to, but they can't teach you how to feel comfortable repeating that process with every client.
I think you just touched on it right there. It's your own personal comfort that determines whether you are ethically qualified to do something. If you have the training, but you're shaky on it, massage is not a fake it till you make it kind of profession. Go out, practice, get the education until you're comfortable going to somebody and saying, I'm an expert in this, and your health is in good hands, literally, when you're on my table. And if you can't say that to yourself, if you feel like you're, sorry for the language, but it feels like you're bullshitting somebody in order to get them on your table, then ethically that's not what ethically representing yourself and your qualifications in an honest manner, which is what we're talking about right now.
I also go to the other side. And that other side for me is not just that you're kind of faking it till you make it, but you're doing it for the money instead of doing it for their best health or for their best response. I know that's a different section completely for the Code of Ethics, but if you're no longer looking at the purpose, the value, and the response for the client, and you're saying, you know what, I'm broke, I got to have this $60, I got to have this however much, that's going to be a problematic piece, because you're no longer looking at making value for that client. You're looking at making value for your pocketbook. And there's a lot of customer service books on how to make sure that you have quality customer service no matter what industry. And they continue to say that it's got to be focused on that person. It cannot ever be focused on, well, our business isn't making enough money, so we're going to have you pay more.
Well, and this goes straight to my personal feelings about massage, which is if you're in the industry to get rich, you're in the wrong industry. My gratification from doing massage is helping others, is that piece of service to another person where I know that simply through my hands and my knowledge, this person is going to leave experiencing a higher quality of life. If your intent isn't to do that, your intent is simply to take this person's money, you'll never be a good therapist. You have to be there, like you said, you have to be present there for your client, and that has to be your reason for being there. Well, for me, it does. I'm going to say that for me, anytime that I have, like you said, you feel like you just start going through the motions to make the paycheck, that's not the place you want to be as a therapist, because you'll start giving subpar service. And the people come to you, and they come to you as a healer. And as a healer, that should be your primary focus, is bringing comfort to and or helping your client. Whether that's through helping them through an injury, helping them through surgery, helping them simply relax, whatever it is in their life that they need help for, that they're coming to you for, you have to be present for that. And you have to have that as your foremost intent. If you're just trying to get bodies on the table to get money, well, then it goes again right here, representing yourself honestly. Honestly, when somebody walks in and I say, how are you? How can I help you today? Or what issues are you experiencing? That's my true focus. That's me honestly asking them. I'm not there putting up that front being like, yeah, I get to make some money, right? Money is a byproduct of good service. And if you do good service, the money will be there. But that has to be the focus of any healer, in my perspective. Any healer's focus needs to be on the service, not on the payout.
So this week I'm on the road. I don't think I said this at the beginning. I'm not at the Educated Touch Studios in Oakdale, Washington. I'm actually in Troutdale, Oregon. And just yesterday, I went into a hotel, and as I went in, I was coming in really late and went to the front desk, and the lady was so sweet and kind. She was very nice, and she got me my room key, and I went up to the room and opened the door and walked in, and there was someone sleeping in the room. And I turned around and said, "Oh, sorry about that." And the person was like, "Ah." So I went down to the front desk and I talked to the lady, told her that someone was already checked into that room, and I flustered her. And you could tell that she was like, "Oh my gosh, I've never had this happen. How do we deal with this?" However, she pulled herself together and really quickly and easily kind of got me a new room, went up and made sure that the room was clean and that everything was professional.
Yep.
For me, that's where we look at these important honesty qualifications and that you're qualified. You know what? As a front desk person, she doesn't have she doesn't have to have her bachelor's in business. She doesn't have to have a big knowledge in how to resolve concerns. She doesn't have to have a massive 4-year degree in anything. But I think we need to learn something from that type of experience. A couple of years ago, I was working at a spa, and we had a couples massage. It was myself and the lead massage therapist, and we went to pick up the husband and wife. And we walked into the waiting area, the beautiful room, and we called them, and the wife popped up and went over to my colleague, and the husband kind of rocked back and forth and got himself up and got off and kind of was shuffling over to me. And I thought, ooh, I've got some things to do here. And so we got him back into the room, and I asked him, so how you doing? Any health concerns? Are you seeing a doctor for anything? Oh, no, nothing. I'm fine. Have you had any surgeries? Oh, no, I'm fine. Okay. And so, not feeling 100% comfortable that he was being honest, I was like, okay, let's start with you face up so that we can really check in with you and make sure that everything's right. Just had that feeling something was going on. So we stepped out, and the other massage therapist kind of looked at me and was like, everything going to be okay? I said, you know what, we're going to figure that out. And so we washed our hands and came back, and I started working on his right leg while he was face up. I started touching the feet and started going up the right leg, and I said, you've got a tube on the inside of your leg. He says, oh yeah, that's my catheter. People who are healthy don't usually have catheters. I'm like, okay. He's like, oh yeah, I had bladder cancer, and yeah, that's all taken care of. I'm fine. You just have to deal with the catheter. No other problems? No, I'm good. Okay. So I'm now lightening up, thinking about contraindications, thinking about indications, thinking about what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be increasing the circulation, so I'm going to be increasing that urine output, making sure that I'm connecting with what's going on with him. So wanted to decrease the lymphatic response, or not increase it, I guess, not decrease it either. But and so then I started working around and worked up to the top of his head. He had a divot in his head. I said, oh, what's going on up here? He said, oh, I had a brain tumor. Yeah, they cut that out and put a little plate up there. So now I've got that. So you had brain cancer and you had bladder cancer. Anything else? And he's like, oh, I've had this type of cancer and that type of cancer. Agent Orange didn't do really good for me. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's not really good for you. That becomes really hard. And this was one of those points where I was like, okay, now I'm having to really limit what I can do. I have to be working on post-oncology. I got to be working on a person who's fragile. And so my treatment plan this entire time was changing and was creating a new standard because I wanted to make sure that I was creating honest qualifications and making sure that client had the best service. Finally got down to it that I was working on his left leg. And so as I said, this was a couples massage. So his wife was in the room with the other massage therapist. Oh, the other massage therapist, every time he said something about a type of cancer, her eyes got like 3 times bigger and her jaw dropped and she had no clue what to do. It was quite humorous. However, his wife from the other side of the room, about 5 minutes left, said, gosh, I'm so glad that he couldn't get a massage because he's got a blood clot in his left leg, and his doctor put him on blood thinners to hopefully clear it out.
Wait, no, you cut out there for me. Say that again, what the wife said.
So the wife said, I'm so glad that he could get a massage because his doctor just informed him that he has a blood clot in his left leg, and he's been put on blood thinners to help clear it out.
Wow.
So at that point, my hands go up. I go and I sit up at the top of his head. I said, I'm concerned here. Here's what's going on. I just want to make sure that you're safe. And so I did energy work on his neck and head where he had that brain tumor cut out. And I was working on his energetic field. People aren't always going to tell us the truth. And this is the hard part for me, for representing yourself honestly and being qualified. And when you're dealing with people who, he wasn't trying to entrap me. He wasn't trying to really get me. He wasn't trying to do anything dishonest, truly. He just wanted a massage. He wanted to relax. He wanted to feel better. We did follow up with him the next day. He was fine. He was on vacation at this spa, and he was very happy to just be able to relax. Is that what I suggest to people? No. But what I do suggest to people is when you get that inkling that there's something not right about this, have your communication skills go through the roof, because that's what's going to make sure that you can be safe. I was talking to a spa just recently, and they had a person who was denied because that they had everything set up to go get a massage. They were denied because they had cancer a year ago, and there were these problems, and they didn't have a doctor's recommendation for massage. And they were mad. And I completely understand why they would be mad. I would be mad too. But the key aspect is being able to communicate with that client. You know what, I'm sorry about this. Here's where you're at. Here's what we need to make sure that you're safe. And I need to pull it back to them. And then having a massage therapist on staff who's qualified for cancer, for lymphatic, for all the different possible challenges, fibromyalgia, someone who's trained and knows what to do with fibromyalgia, someone who's trained and knows what to do with different techniques. There are different conditions. Not only are techniques important, not only is it good to know that you're qualified to work as a manual lymphatic drainage specialist, but it's also good to have those techniques covered that work with specific conditions, because that's that other category of continuing education.
Well, I know we're coming up on our time here, but I'd like to go and retouch on some of those aspects of the story you just said, because it's fascinating to me, because I've run into a lot of the same issues. But I think, again, the main concern there was he didn't tell you all of his health issues because he didn't view you as a healthcare provider. His perception of massage was, this is pampering. This is something you got to relax. They don't need to know about my blood clot, And that's where we as therapists have to represent ourselves for the license we hold. And we are dealing with people's health here. You went up, and at the end there, when you did the energy work, earlier we talked about how energy work isn't necessarily part of scope of practice. It's not said that we can't do it. It's just not part of what is explained. But what you represented yourself there was a healer. You took the education that you had in healing and you applied that towards him, regardless of if it was soft tissue manipulation or whatever you want the definition to be. What you represented was somebody who was actively and aware of the body you had on the table, of the health of that individual, and you used your education, your knowledge to better them. But we also run into an issue here where, like you said, sometimes you work at a spa where they've got forewrote what you have to do. Well, what if your spa says you have to start your client face down and that situation were to happen?
Well, and I go with the statement of knowing the letter of the law and then knowing the spirit of the law.
Yes.
And if I ever get fired because I couldn't follow the letter of the law because of the health of someone, I'd rather be fired.
Well, there you're talking about not letter of the law so much as letter of the law of the spa.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Letter of their law specifically.
Yeah, because by the laws of what we're supposed to do and by our ethics, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
And Yeah, sometimes as a therapist, you might find yourself working in a position or a place that wants you to present yourself as something other than what your license is. And always know that you are a therapist first, that you are a healthcare provider first, that is what your license and education is in, that is what your continuing education is in. And if you're working for a place that just needs you to do it this way because that's how they want it to do, and it goes against your ethics and understanding as a therapist, you are completely okay in saying, no, this isn't what I do.
Well, and I think
If you get fired, like you said, you'd rather get fired than to go outside of that.
And I think the best piece is most, I'm going to say, most owners of a spa, most owners of a franchise, most owners of a business, most owners who would be telling you to always do it this way, if you can talk to them clearly and express why you did this, they'll understand. Or at least they'll say, okay, I see why you did it that way, and then want to educate you more. It's always worth talking to people more than just putting it out there and saying, well, they didn't let me do what I wanted to do, so I did it my way anyway. That's not the attitude that we're talking about. The attitude that we're talking about is making sure that A, your client's safe, B, that you're following the policies, the procedures, your license, you're organized that way. And then C, if there has to be a change, that you do it wisely, safely, and professionally.
Well, and also a good point, this is the last one I'll make, when you're in that situation, to remember that there are exceptions, but the majority of spa owners do not have a massage therapy license. They don't have the education that you have. They don't have the knowledge that you have. They're trying to run a business, but you're the one that has the education on how to treat the client.
Yeah, and no matter which area of the massage therapy profession you work in, your number one ultimate employer is your customers. Mm-hmm. And if your customers don't like you, then your employer will have a hard time paying you. But if you can work for those customers and really get them excited about your location, your work, your facility, your employer will be very happy with you.
And as a therapist, one of our jobs is to educate the public, and that includes our employers. You let them know what a massage therapist is, what your scope of practice is, what your knowledge base is, and if you're not comfortable ethically doing something that you are not qualified to perform that they are asking you to do, you can go up and tell them, A, I need more education on this before I can perform this professionally, or B, this is not ethically okay to do at this location under this profession. Like those are the two things you can look at. But a lot of times they don't know. They think, hey, this would be a great idea. Let's throw this into our massage session. Let's have all of our therapists start doing this because I saw it at a convention somewhere. Yep. They don't know that there are ethical boundaries and legal boundaries that you as a therapist have to go against in order to do that. And educating them can be a very simple conversation that turns out, very positive for both you and your clients and the business.
Awesome. Well, speaking of educating, Adam, thank you for being here with us today. This is the Educated Touch website. Who are we? Register for events, instructors. So we've got different instructors at Educated Touch who travel around the country and teach in different places. We have blogs and research that's from all over that we've kind of connected. Also, you can shop by category on our website. Home study options. So if you watch this YouTube video, then you can use that as home study. The key thing that you need for that home study credit is you need to take a test that you would click on home study here and register for the test, and we would send that to you. You take the test, send it back, and that's how that would go. Live webinars. We're doing weekly webinars every Wednesday night on a different subject. This was number 2. Next week is number 3. And so episode 3 is going to be Wednesday the 17th. And then we also have traveling classes that we go across the country and teach face-to-face. We do get into ethics face-to-face in classes, but we also have other things. We've got structures integrated for functional movement and body worlds and bodies and massage therapy, and several others that we kind of really connect with. So if you're interested, you can go on there to see what is interesting to you. We're registering them as we go, so if you're looking for a class coming up in February, March, April, all year long on Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. East Coast, we'll be having live webinars. So you can go on here and register for that.
It was nice to meet you, Adam. Thank you, Nathan. The hour has flown by. We hope you've enjoyed this discussion with Ethics Outside the Box. As you've seen, Nathan uses many second-hand stories of ethical situations. If you'd like to share your story or you have any questions, feel free to contact him and Nathan at educatedtouch.com. If you'd like to register for next week's live webinar, go to shop.educatedtouch.com. Under live webinars, you will see all upcoming webinars. If you have just watched this video and would like continuing education for home study, you can go to shop.educatedtouch.com under the home study options with the date or episode number to receive your exam. If you would please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we will keep you up to date on new videos. If you'd like to attend one of our live courses, you can find upcoming scheduled events at www.educatedtouch.com. Thank you for joining us today. Be well and have an ethical day.